So we are still continuing to work on our Da Vinci inspired Mona Lisa, and we're our Renaissance unit. So today, if you're still tracing or finishing up tracing or even doing the Sharpie, please finish that first before you use the chalk. And we're using actually charcoal pencil today. And then if you finish her, you're gonna put her in the folder, and then you'll get a separate sheet of paper, and that's what you're going to be doing the painting. And these are gonna be hills in the background. Not trying to make it realistic, but we're just kind of, you can paint realistic colors, but we're gonna kind of get the same effect that we have on this final one, okay? So I'm gonna show you first, starting with the Mona Lisa. First of all, this is how it should look like. This is what some students have done. I know I said it the last time and I say it again. Do not pull the string. If you pull the string, one, you're gonna damage it. Two, this is like way too big, it's gonna break off. And then this is what somebody has done to mine, and they pulled it so far, this is kind of just falling apart. So don't touch this if you get this one, and then not for another maybe year or so will we even get this all fixed. So please just be careful with my materials. So this one's in good shape. The black is showing, that means it's totally perfect and easy to use. It's not gonna be sharpened like a pencil, it's not supposed to be, okay? So the whole point of this is we want to get a nice grayscale, okay? So we're going from light to medium to dark, okay? And remember, charcoal is very, very soft, so it's gonna make a very, very dark mark. So you wanna handle it carefully. So I've got most of mine pretty much finished. I just have to work on the hands and then this dark area down here. So when I'm using this, especially in the hands where it's gonna be lighter, I am gonna I'm barely touching the paper with the charcoal. And I'm just kind of shading, maybe on the little knuckles, one side of the hand. I'm not even gonna shade right in there. Then I'm gonna take my Q-tip and blend it. So when you blend it, it also kind of darkens it a little bit, but it also smudges it. So the area that I did not shade, like right in that area, I can take that Q-tip and smudge it and kind of fill that area out. So you don't have to color the whole thing with the charcoal. You just want to do a little area. So I could be like, okay, I did that. Let me get a little bit more on the side here just to darken it. I always suggest doing a little bit at a time because you can always go back in and darken it up. You can't go back in and do the erasing. So just do a little area here. The hands and the face are going to be lighter, and that's part of her thumb right here. This is her other hand. It doesn't look much like a hand, it looks almost like wrinkles, but this is supposed to be her hand. And that is underneath it, so I shaded it a little bit darker because naturally it would have more shadows. And I'm gonna cover this whole thing. And then this right here is part of her clothing. So it's gonna be in the darkest shadows. And remember, I have some actual Mona Lisa visuals in the classroom, so you can see underneath her hand. This is gonna be like the main part of the body of the outfit. And so it's gonna be the darkest. So I still, even though that's the darkest area, barely touched it. Then I'm gonna take this and kind of smudge along there, and that just gives it a nice, soft look, and it fills in all those white spaces. So I'm looking at this and I'm saying, okay, that could definitely go darker. Excuse me. So I can go back over it, still barely touching the paper, but I'm giving it like another layer of the chalk. And then I'm still using the same side to blend. I always like to keep one side really light and clean, so if I need it anywhere like at the face or one of the lighter spaces, I have it. So I think that is pretty dark. And I still have some folds right here to work on. So in general, with the folds, I've been noticing it's really just easy to, if you just take the charcoal and basically trace over where you have a fold, then you can take this and trace that, and then I kind of shade the rest of the area so it's not pure white. And notice this hand, I'm kind of carefully holding it. Remember, she's going to be cut out. So if you have some dots or imperfections on the outer side, it's going to be cut off and removed so you won't even see it. Okay, so this would be fine to be finished. I might go back in and add some darker areas to some of the spaces where I feel like right by the arm needs to be a little bit darker, maybe a little bit underneath the chin, some of her hair. But she's pretty much done for today. So I want to make sure that she goes in my folder so that nothing happens to her. So I'm going to kind of put her aside, pretend that I'm going to place her in the folder. Now I'm going to get a separate sheet of paper. You're going to be getting the Tempur cakes, a cup of water, and a brush or brushes. And this is the part you're going to add the hills. So I'm going to put my glass code on here, turn it around. We want to make sure we don't want to leave it like this. We want to leave it tall because remember the Mona Lisa is tall as well, so vertical. And then we can draw on our hills. You can have kind of like little V's, whatever you want to do. So I have 1, 2, 3, 4 lines, which gives me 5 sections, which is fine. I could add more to it as well. So I'm just going to paint in each section a different hill. So I'm not trying to make it look realistic. It's kind of has this abstract look. So we've got the bold color versus the black and white Mona Lisa. But just remember with the paints, when you start it, and like this blue, there's not a ton of blue, but there's plenty of blue for this painting. So I just find the area where I see the Tempur cake, and you can see it's built up against the wall here, and I'm just taking my brush and just wiggling it around. The more I wiggle the brush around, the deeper and bolder the color I'm gonna get. So I think a bold color for this looks really, really nice. Then you'll just paint right on there. When the brush is like running out of paint, you just go back to the water and then paint around there. So I have this top section painted. Now this is great because this paint does dry really fast, but I don't want to have bleeding, so I'm going to skip this spot and go over to another area. So these are hills. I could paint it with like a typical green if I want to. I could have orange hills. And I'm going to show you. See how light that is? That I didn't wiggle around as much. I'm looking for a bolder color, so I'm going to wiggle the brush around back and forth, back and forth. Sometimes you get a little pool down in here, this bottom part. That's much darker. That's what I'm looking for. And I drew these lines. If you want to just basically go for it and just paint your sections without drawing them, that's fine. So you'll paint that one. If I want to not leave it that green, want it to be more of a yellow green, I can go into this yellow and then paint over it and change it to make it look how I want it to look. So you're just going to paint in all of these sections in until you get something like this. So I've got all these just different layers, and then when it's dry next week, I'll show you the final steps.